Today, we're going to dive into something pretty personal. It's this journey of letting go of the person you had to become just to get by, and finally, making some room for the person you were always meant to be. Let's just start with this. This idea is so powerful because it reframes absolutely everything. Those parts of yourself that you might be struggling with right now, they weren't mistakes. They were not flaws. They were your mind's brilliant, necessary strategies for survival.
So first, let's get to know this version of you a little better. We're talking about the identity that was forged right in the middle of a storm. A version of you that was created specifically to endure whatever was being thrown at you.
We can call this the survival self, and it's basically the you that had to develop to cope with an environment that, let's be honest, asked way too much and gave way too little. It was an incredible adaptation, really, but it was only ever meant to be temporary. So, what does this actually look like? Well, maybe you recognize some of these. How about hyper-independence, that feeling that you have to do everything all by yourself? Or people-pleasing, where you're constantly putting everyone else's needs first. Maybe it's emotional numbness, just kind of shutting down to get through the day. Or overachievement, feeling like you have to constantly prove your worth. Just remember, these are not character flaws. They were your tools. But here's the thing, there's a turning point. And at that point, the very armor that once protected you can start to feel less like a shield and more like a cage. What was once so necessary becomes the very thing that's limiting your life now. And this is where we really see that shift. Back then, these strategies absolutely helped you endure. They kept you safe, no question. But the price you pay for them today, oh, it's incredibly high. It can cost you intimacy, genuine rest, and real joy. That armor, it keeps you safe, sure, but it also keeps you completely disconnected. And this brings up a lot of really complicated feelings. Because letting go of that survival self means you finally have to look back and admit just how hard things actually were. It means acknowledging you shouldn't have had to be so strong. And that can bring up this weird mix of gratitude for the person who got you through, and at the same time, this really deep sense of grief.
So it is completely and totally natural to feel afraid. I mean, when we even think about letting go of this identity that has defined us for so long, this giant question mark just appears. Who are we without it?
And that here, it can sound a lot like this. Okay, but if I'm not the fixer, then who am I? Or maybe this one hits home. If I stop performing for everyone, will I still be loved? And then there's the big one. If I actually let myself rest, is everything just going to fall apart?
These fears aren't just random anxieties. They come from a very specific place. They happen when our entire identity has been built on our ability to endure instead of on our true essence.
So how do we start moving forward? Well, the good news is that letting go isn't some huge dramatic event. It actually happens really quietly in the small, everyday choices that we start to make for ourselves. Think of these less as rules and more as gentle invitations. Things like choosing rest when your brain is screaming, "Be productive," or saying no and not feeling like you have to write a 5-page essay explaining why. It's allowing yourself to actually need support, or just letting an emotion be there without feeling like you have to immediately fix it or manage it. Now, making these new choices, it will absolutely feel uncomfortable. Let's just be real about that. It might even feel wrong at first because it goes against years and years of programming. But please remember this, that discomfort isn't a sign of danger. It's the feeling of new ground being broken. It is the feeling of growth. And as you start to practice this, as you gently lay down that old armor, piece by piece, something pretty incredible starts to happen. All this space begins to open up inside of you, and you finally get to discover who's been living underneath it all along. So what fills all that new space? Well, it's all the things there just wasn't room for before. Things like softness, a sense of playfulness, your own actual desires. And yeah, it's also space for the grief that you had to put on a shelf for so long. And it's space for a kind of joy that might have felt way too risky or unsafe in the past. And I think this is so crucial to understand. This whole journey isn't about inventing some brand new person. It's about becoming someone more honest. It's about returning to who you were before you had to build all those walls. Someone who is just less burdened by the past. So I want you to really hear this. You are allowed to be gentle now. You are allowed to be held. And most importantly, you are allowed to live a life that is not defined by what you had to endure. So just think of this whole process as an invitation. It's not about trying to erase your past. That's part of your story.
It's about releasing its grip on your present. It's about honoring the survivor you were by giving yourself the freedom to truly live now.
So, ultimately, it all comes down to this question. Your survival story is an integral part of you. It's already been written. The real question is, are you ready to pick up the pen and start living your next chapter?